I was happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I have a big time injury update for both the Washington Commanders and the Browns side of this upcoming matchup. We have good Brian Robinson news. Austin Ekeler clears concussion protocol, and Nick Chubb is out, even though it looked like he may have been trending to come back. You know, that's my Georgia dog right there, but I'm glad we don't got to play against them. We have some good news, and we also have some bad news. Of course, we got to get to it with some of the guys who will be out. We got to talk about who needs to step up in their place, especially in this wide receiver room. Also, the team captains were announced, and I feel like even though this is a positive thing, we kind of got to look at the other side, like why haven't a specific two guys not been named captain yet? And of course, this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. I will be live streaming this upcoming Commanders versus Browns game. We're going to be at home, so I know the crowd's going to be into it. Like I already said previously, I think this is going to be our best home crowd turnout in Landover since probably at least 2012, that final game of RG3's rookie season to beat the Cowboys and win the division. And then the band, I missed the band that we had because they were playing go-go in the parking lot. They were going crazy. It was amazing. So make sure y'all pull up to that game if you can. If you're in the area, I will be live streaming that game, play-by-play analysis, all of that type of stuff. But instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the good news first. And just to let you know, they haven't come out with like the official full-blown injury report, so I will update y'all on that tomorrow because it just hasn't been put out yet today. I think it's going to come out later today. By the time I put this video out, it's probably won't even be out yet. So when I do my Browns preview, when I'm breaking down matchups, advanced stats, and what we need to attack, what are their weaknesses and strengths, what are our weaknesses and strengths and all of that, be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Then I'll probably go ahead and have the full-blown injury report included in that video. But again, with this video specifically, starting with the good news, Dan Quinn said the running back Austin Ekeler has been cleared after missing last week with a concussion. Technically, he's missed like the last 6 quarters, so a week and a half, and he had a good week. So now we have Austin Ekeler back. Thank goodness. Yes, sir. Like I've already said earlier this week, even though Jeremy McNichols played very well while replacing Austin Ekeler for 6 quarters, going back to the Bengals game for 2 of them, and even though Jeremy McNichols probably has shown us that he should play even when both Austin Ekeler and Brian Robinson are healthy, and even though Jeremy ran well and protected Jaden very well, which is all you can really ask for of a running back, Austin Ekeler is still missed. You can feel his impact lost from the team. Our offense seems like it didn't miss a step, but I'll tell you one thing, at the very least, one thing for sure, 2 things for certain, nobody on this team has proven to be a better returner so far through this season with the new kickoff rules and everything than Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler, I believe statistically, is like one of the top 5 returners until he got hurt against the Bengals. So having him back is going to be big time for field of position, starting it, all of that type of stuff, man. So I'm really excited because that's going to change the dynamic of this game. But also, we're going to talk about Brian Robinson soon. And even though we have good Brian Robinson news, it's not like he's 100%. So it's going to take both Austin Ekeler and Jeremy McNichols to step up. So, I mean, even on top of the fact that Jeremy McNichols is good, but having Austin Ekeler back is going to be great, B.Rob is banged up. We will need both Austin Ekeler and Jeremy McNichols to step up in his place, since we will likely be, Brian Robinson will likely be fairly limited, not only snap-wise, but also ability-wise. So it's not even like an Ekeler versus McNichols situation anymore. We need both of them this week. And even though Brian Robinson is a monster, we're going to talk about some of the stats to prove that soon, very soon, but there's at least some sort of a silver lining to the fact that, like, at least we have Austin Ekeler and Jeremy McNichols, because we're about to go against the best edge rusher we faced all season, easily, arguably the best defense overall we faced all season as well, and at least our 2 best pass protecting running backs are healthy. You want Brian Robinson fully healthy no matter what every week. But it is nice. The silver lining is that at least our two best pass protection running backs are healthy, so they'll be ready to help the tackles out to keep Jaden Daniels safe and all of that. But again, on top of the Austin Ekeler update that I just gave you, Dan Quinn in his press conference also said that Brian Robinson is trending the right direction. He'll still be a game time decision, so it's still kind of like, just halt on that, don't get too excited, but Brian Robinson's feeling good. He's trending towards the right direction, and he seems like he will play against the Browns, but I wouldn't expect like a 100% Brian Robinson. And then John Comm even tweeted earlier before Dan Quinn spoke to the media, before he officially announced that Brian Robinson was trending the right direction. John Comm was at the practice. He said Brian Robinson was at practice in uniform today. And just to let you know, he's been out the past 2 days. Wednesday and Thursday has not practiced at all. Today was the first time he even put like an actual uniform on. And then John Comm said, not sure how much he actually did after we left practice, because at a certain point the media has to leave, and then that's when the Commanders actually for real practice, because they don't want people snooping in on their practices, spying and things like that. So we're not exactly sure how good Brian Robinson is to go, but again, Dan Quinn said that he's good to go, and that's big time, man, because just to let you know, Brian Robinson ranks second among running backs in yards after contact per carry, right? Which is already elite. Just that alone is elite. But he'll also face a Cleveland Browns defense that ranks 29th in yards after contact allowed per rush. So right now, Brian Robinson is one of the top two running backs as far as getting yards after contact. After the first person touches him and tries to tackle him, he breaks that tackle, does whatever he has to do, and continues to get more yards after that. He's the second best running back in the NFL statistically at that so far this season. And the Cleveland Browns are the third worst at allowing it. They just allow people to do that. So this looks like a match made in heaven, but sadly, Brian Robinson is banged up a little. Also, a good argument for how Brian Robinson is arguably the most underrated running back in the NFL right now. Shouts out to Joel Morin at Joel ELVMORAN on Twitter. He points out the fact that Brian Robinson is 10th in rushing yards, 3rd in yards after contact, 2nd in yards after contact per attempt, like we just talked about, 4th in breakaway run percentage, tied for 4th with most runs over 15 plus yards, and 5th in elusive rating. So you just heard all of those runs where it's like, okay, this guy's breaking tackles, he's hard to tackle, this guy's just a bulldozer. You think of like the bus kind of thing, or maybe like a Derrick Henry type of guy, but both Alabama guys, both came from Alabama. But then he's also 5th in elusive rating. Like, Brian Robinson is having an elite season right now, and I mean, I've always been a big fan of Brian Robinson for the past couple of years. I know some fans in our fan base started to give up on him, and of course pointing out things like vision, pass protection, and things like that. But I knew that once he finally had a franchise quarterback that could take some pressure off of him and force people to not stack the box, I knew he would put up numbers like this. But he's even exceeded my expectations advanced stats wise, so I'm super happy for him. But man, I would love for him to get back healthy. And then, so even just after giving you those stats, after today's practice, they went up to Brian Robinson directly in the locker room. He said, quote, "I feel a lot better than I did earlier this week," unquote. And I hope so. I mean, the first 2 days, he didn't practice at all. He couldn't even be limited, let alone like anything, let alone feeling good. But now today was the first time that he finally returned to practice, actually put on a uniform and things like that. And so basically he echoed Dan Quinn's assessment that he's trending in the right direction, but will still be a game time decision come Sunday. We'll see what happens there. And before we get to the bad Commanders injury news, because we got a couple, this show is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast. I know I do, so I know y'all do too. And right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits after that for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE 150. And they have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, so it's pretty much like, why not? Now let's take a look at some betting lines on their official website. I'm talking, how about Dan Quinn for Coach of the Year right now? With the way things are going, let's talk about Dan Quinn for Coach of the Year. And as you can see on the screen, right now, Dan Quinn has plus 550 betting odds to win Coach of the Year right now. Those are pretty good odds, man. That's way higher than it used to be. When I looked a couple of weeks ago, he was in the thousands for sure. But now with the way that the Commanders are surging, the fact that we're like technically the second seed in the NFC right now, if the playoffs started tomorrow or, you know, basically this weekend on Sunday, if we had to play a playoff game on Sunday, we would be the second seed in the NFC. That's more than likely why. Also on top of the fact that you have to acknowledge how quick of a turnaround this was from not only just the Rivera era and erasing all of that and overcoming that, but the fact that we are the newest team in the NFL roster, coaching staff, and front office wise, and the fact that we're out there 3-1 leading the division convincingly and favorites going into this Browns game. I'm gonna talk about that in the Browns preview because that does make me nervous. We're gonna get to that then. We got the betting lines, we got everybody's predictions from NFL Network. We'll get there. Just be on the lookout for my Browns preview either later tonight or tomorrow. But either way, Dan Quinn is doing an excellent job right now. Everybody, it feels like, is doing an excellent job. Everybody's exceeding expectations. Even a guy like Jaden Daniels, who I had high expectations for coming into the season. So with those plus 550 betting odds, you may want to get in on this early because again, these odds keep increasing and increasing, which means you'll make less money for the same amount of money that you would have put down for it a couple of weeks ago. But either way, if you put $100 on it right now, you could end up making $550 if he does end up winning Coach of the Year by the end of the season. You know how magical of a story that would be, man. Dan Quinn from 28-3 with the Falcons goes to the Cowboys, takes one of the worst defenses in the NFL, makes them one of the best defenses in the NFL, then leaves that to go become a head coach again for a franchise that hasn't done anything significant really in my whole lifetime because I wasn't allowed to see any of the Super Bowls. And to turn that around and win Coach of the Year first year would be insane. Like, that would be an insane story plot. But you got to remember, not only has he gone to the Super Bowl as the Falcons head coach, but he has won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator for the Seahawks. So he's been there, done that. So if anybody knows how to get us there, he has the experience. But if you don't want to put $100 on it, if you just want to do 10, you just got like a random $10 sitting around. It's kind of like a why not type of thing. You could put 10 down and end up winning $55 by the end of the season if Dan Quinn wins Coach of the Year. Now, this is a tough race. That's a really difficult award to give to anybody, but if you just have $10 sitting around, it's kind of like, why not? But at the same time, I'm always going to really, really emphasize this. If you don't listen to nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly, man. Please and thank you. And again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next two deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. Let's get back to this video. Let's talk about this bad news on the injury report. And just straight up, I'm gonna go ahead and get this out the way. Wide receiver Noah Brown and defensive end Cleveland Ferrell are both ruled out for this Sunday matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Again, in Landover, Maryland, we will have home field advantage, but that does suck not having those two guys. Now, on one end, like Cleveland Ferrell, not having him, that's one thing. We haven't had him for the past couple of weeks anyway, and other guys have stepped up, like Dorrance Armstrong finally had his monster game. He had Kelvin Beachum in the blender, in the torture house, but he was going through it, and I'm hoping he could do that same thing to the Cleveland Browns offensive line, because I'm not going to lie, their offensive line may be even worse than the Arizona Cardinals. Again, we're going to talk about that in my preview video, so I'm going to save that for that, but their offensive line is terrible, and it's hurt. So I feel like if they performed well, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne finally stepped up. Johnny Newton made some plays. Dante Fowler even had like a half a sack and forced a holding penalty. I feel like if they could do that against the Cardinals O-line, they should definitely be able to do that against the Cleveland Browns one. So not having Cleveland Ferrell, of course, is not a good thing. That's still bad news, but we can make up for that. We have obvious answers. We've seen obvious answers with proof from the Cardinals game. On the other hand, not having Noah Brown is scary, because we don't have necessarily like immediate definitive answers that we can like we could point at and be like, that guy's gonna do that to make up for him. Because shouts out to Rich Manuel, I completely agree. He said Noah's made some clutch catches. What's most impressed me about him has been the blocks, the route running, and knowing where to be to bail his quarterback out. Remember that, I think it was 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, how he was able to, like, Jaden Daniels scramble drill, just, you know, it's backyard football at this point. The play call doesn't even matter. We're just trying trying to look around and find somebody open, he made himself available and came back to the ball to make sure that Jaden Daniels was able to easily complete that without having to worry about the defensive back. And he still found a way to make sure he was like a half yard or a yard ahead of the first down. I mean, you couldn't ask for any more nuance and awareness from Noah Brown on that play than he displayed right there. His ability to bail the quarterback out, to do nuanced things that help Jaden Daniels out, even if Jaden Daniels doesn't even necessarily notice himself, or especially the fan base doesn't notice in the game, that's going to be big time. And again, just to go back to the block, Jaden Daniels, that touchdown run he had, Noah Brown was one of those lead blockers. His impact will be missed, not only just from catching the ball, but all of the little nuanced veteran ways that he helps this offense stay on schedule and efficient. So sadly though, Noah Brown does have a history of being on injury reports early and often in seasons though. Like this, he's just a guy that just can't stay healthy for some odd reason. This is pretty typical. That was like the one negative I had about signing him potentially. Like when we were thinking about it and was like, should we go get Noah Brown? I was like, yes, please, but be aware, this is a guy that stays hurt typically. And I'm still very happy to have him, but this was kind of expected at this point. I didn't expect Noah Brown to give us 17 games this season. He just doesn't do that. But man, I mean, the timing against arguably the best defense we've played all season so far, the timing is awful. But that means it's time for other guys to step up in his place, which takes me to the point that, like, is this the game where Luke McCaffrey finally separates himself from the rest of the pack outside of Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown? Because, like, outside of Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, it's kind of a toss-up, even though I feel like Luke McCaffrey had the advantage up until the point that Olamide Zaccheaus just went crazy last week. But I don't know if y'all know, but Luke McCaffrey right now is fourth out of the entire NFL in separation per route run right now. Like, that's including everybody. We're not talking about backup receivers. We're not even just talking about he's fourth out of Commanders receivers. No, we're talking about all receivers in the NFL. You could throw Justin Jefferson in there. You could throw Jamar Chase in there. And I hate the fact, as a Georgia fan, I just named two LSU receivers off the top of my head as the top receivers. But you can add Tyreek Hill in there. You know what I'm saying? I got to make it up by adding a guy that was born and raised in Georgia. Kind of help me out a little bit. You can add AJ Brown. You can add Mike Evans, any of these elite receivers. Out of every receiver in the entire NFL, Luke McCaffrey is fourth in separation per route run right now. I think this is the time that Jaden Daniels finally starts to look at him a little bit more, trust him a little bit more. You saw that catch he made against the Cardinals? That may have been his first and only target that game, and it was a great throw from Jaden Daniels, but it was still like an outreaching. He had to reach really far to get it, barely at the tip of his fingers, and to still corral that in a clutch moment where we needed him the most. I believe that was like a second and long or a third and long or something like that. And you know, as a NFL player, really just a football player, period, no matter the position, the more reps you get, like especially for a receiver specifically, the more targets you get, the more you warm up, the better you feel about making catches like that. For that to be his first target and to make a play like that, I feel like he at the very least earned more targets. He earned more looks from Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury just from making that catch alone. Moving forward, and then even in that Bengals game where he caught that one pass and took it all the way to the 1 yard line, we ended up scoring after that. Like, come on, man. I think this is his time to finally separate himself from the group that's not including Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. But then again, Olamide Zaccheaus was our leading receiver against the Cardinals, and also he even gets the ball in like creative ways, like with handoffs out of the backfield, sweeps, reverses behind the line of scrimmage and stuff like that. He's like our baby Tavon Austin, kind of used in like a Curtis Samuel like role. It hasn't been very often, but it's occasional, and every time that Cliff Kingsbury draws it up, it seems effective. It's just always been something wrong. Like week 1 against the Buccaneers, Jaden Daniels fumbled the snap, but the way that it was blocked up, if you look at the all 22, Olamide Zaccheaus probably takes that reverse all the way for a touchdown, like a 30-40 yard touchdown against the Buccaneers. And then against the Cardinals, he had a really successful first down run out of it, but then they gave him a stupid taunting penalty, which I did not feel like was warranted at all. But either way, they called that penalty on that, and then he made up for it though. I love the fact that Cliff Kingsbury has shown trust in his players to where they make a mistake, he gives it right back to them within a couple of plays. He's already done that with Zach Ertz after a penalty. Zach Ertz, like a couple of plays later, makes a first down catch. Same thing with Olamide Zaccheaus, and I think even De'Ami Brown had a situation like that a couple of weeks ago, I think against the Bengals maybe. So I love the fact that Cliff Kingsbury trusts his receivers like that, trusts all of his playmakers to be like, you make a mistake, you make up for it right now. But either way, I'm getting off topic. My point is, Olamide Zaccheaus, remember, he was our leading receiver, and he seemed to be like a dependable, always open for Jaden Daniels target type of guy. So maybe it's time for him to step up and have a similar game to what he had last week. And then you also have De'Ami Brown, who's arguably our best screen receiver and is supposed to be our best deep threat. Like how he had that big catch from Jaden Daniels in that second preseason game. His problem is separation, though, because even over the top, he doesn't separate much. He's like not the fastest guy to be considered a deep threat, which is really weird. Like even on that big play from Jaden in the preseason, it was great coverage from the corner. De'Ami Brown barely had any separation, but Jaden just threw the perfect ball. Couldn't ask for him to throw it any better than that. I really like De'Ami, probably more than most of the fan base, but it is time for him to make more plays than social media posts at this point. It's time for him to step up. Also, maybe the answer we're looking for, maybe like trying to make up for what we lost in Noah Brown, maybe it's not just specifically in the wide receiver room. Maybe it's time for the tight ends to step up. Maybe Zach Ertz finally has a dominant game statistically. He's had good games, but he hasn't had a dominant game. Maybe this is the game where he gets double-digit targets or something. Or maybe even Ben Sinnott finally gets featured in the passing game. I feel like he's done he's paid his dues. He's done all of the dirty work that a lot of other people don't want to do, and I think maybe this is the time for him to finally be featured in the passing game, man. He and John Bates have been elite with blocking so far this season. Shouts out to Mason Kinahan for this stat. Ben Sinnott ranks 15th among all tight ends in the NFL and second among rookies in pass block grade right now per Pro Football Focus with a minimum of 5 snaps. And then if you pair him up with Zach Ertz, who ranks 7th out of the entire NFL in pass block grade, and neither have allowed a pressure so far this season, I just feel like both of them have done the dirty work. Zach Ertz has been getting the ball in the passing game. I think it's only a matter of time before we start to feature Ben Sinnott as teams start to look at him as like a pure pass blocking, run blocking tight end. We leak him out of nowhere, and then now he's making big plays. I mean, because with Noah Brown now and Ben Sinnott continuing to develop, maybe we can start to see Ben Sinnott used in the passing game, and we utilize his yak ability, his ability to get extra yards after contact like he did in the preseason, where it was literally impossible for one player to tackle him after he caught the ball. It would take like 3-4 guys to finally bring him down, and it seemed like every time he touched the ball in the preseason. I think it's only a matter of time, because if anything, again, defenses are going to start to recognize, hey, this guy is blocking his tail off, and they may look at us and think like, why would Cliff Kingsbury ever even want to ask him to run a route if he's that good at passing? I think this may be the time where we hit them with the reverse card, and we show them that, hey, don't sleep on this guy. Remember, he had a ridiculous relative athletic score, something like 9 point something. He had like the number 1 score for like multiple stats and measurements at the combine. This is an athlete here. So this is a guy that can be diddly in the passing game. I think he has great hands as well. So maybe it's time for him to step up. And again, on top of all of that, he's also paid his dues, man. If there was ever like a rookie that's like, he's done everything you've asked him to do, and now you reward him with targets in the receiving game, it's Ben Sinnott. Because even outside of just being one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL already, just as a rookie 4 games into his career, he also is making plays on special teams. Remember, he was one of those guys that laid a huge hit on special teams coverage against the Cardinals after we scored a touchdown. So Ben Sinnott, maybe it's you. And then lastly, of course, how about just Terry McLaurin? I know the offense isn't built to necessarily play like this, but how about we treat Terry McLaurin like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or Malik Neighbors, where they just have the game where they just carry the team on their backs, like in targets. Like, I doubt it happens, but we could always make this a heavy workload game for Terry to see if he's ready and deserving to be considered in the same tier as like the elite of the elite receivers right now. I mean, I do have a stat for you. Right now, Terry McLaurin has the most contested catches this season out of any wide receiver. Drake London, Jawan Jennings, and Malik Neighbors are all second and third place right now. Well, Drake London, I'm assuming, surpassed Terry McLaurin. This was before that Thursday night game, but through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, Terry McLaurin had the most contested catches, sitting alone with 7, Drake London and Jawan Jennings 6, Malik Neighbors with 5. So this maybe is a Terry McLaurin debut game, or maybe it's just a little bit of a mix of everything that I said. Luke McCaffrey, Terry McLaurin, Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz, Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown. Maybe it's time for all of them to step up. I mean, we got Austin Ekeler back. Maybe it's time for him to catch the ball out of the backfield more often. Jeremy McNichols. We'll see. I'm really excited. Now moving on. Shouts out to Nicky Javala for this update because I was just thinking this. I was literally wondering this when we were getting those injury updates on Brian Robinson, Austin Ekeler, Noah Brown, and these guys. For the 3 players on IR, the injured reserve, whose practice windows were open this week, just a couple of days ago, linebacker Jordan McGee, quarterback Marcus Mariota, and defensive end F.L. Bada, the team will decide over the weekend if they want to activate them for this week or wait. They have 21 days to activate them or leave them on IR for the rest of the season. So just know these guys are on the way back soon, because there's no way they open this practice window just to end up putting them on IR for the rest of the season. But that's just the rule to prevent teams from allowing guys to practice for no reason, even if they're not healthy, just to, you know, so it's basically just a way to get rid of any sort of loopholes and strategies that teams may come up with to kind of take advantage of the rules that the NFL set. So they have that one where, okay, you can allow them to practice, but after 21 days, if you don't bring them to the active 53-man roster, they need to be out for the rest of the season because we said so, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So Jordan McGee, Marcus Mariota, and F.L. Bada, it sounds like they'll be ready to at least be on the roster within 21 days. I'm really particularly excited about Jordan McGee. I'm not saying that they will play this Sunday against the Browns because, again, Dan Quinn didn't even give us specifics on that yet. But don't be surprised if they do, but also don't be surprised if they don't. And, of course, Marcus Mariota is the backup quarterback. So, I mean, we don't hope he ever sees the field, period. I don't want any backup quarterback, no matter who it is. I want Jaden Daniels to throw every single pass that I ever see a Commanders player throw for the next at least 10, 15 seasons outside of the preseason, please. All right, now moving on, you also have some Browns updates from Andrew Siciliano. First of all, he said doesn't expect Chubb to be back this week, maybe next week. We're going to talk about that soon. Also, no read on Njoku playing this week, but, quote, that offense is way better with them, unquote. So for them to potentially not have David Njoku could be huge for us right now. Because so far, we haven't allowed a tight end to have a huge game against us. Njoku seems like that type of guy where it'd be like, oh, now the floodgates finally open. So hopefully he does not play. Then also, quote, Jerry Jeudy has been great, unquote. And so that is a problem for our secondary, but I trust that they can be ready to step up and defend them. And then lastly, the injuries, the O-line has been a mess. So again, just remember, it's time to take advantage of not only their offensive line being bad, but also being hurt. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, a Browns reporter tweeted, Browns running back Nick Chubb, a Georgia dog, has officially been ruled out for the Commanders game as he continues to work his way back from knee injury. And for him to return even as soon as next week is ridiculous. That's insane, like monster level, not human stuff. The fact that he's even this close to returning. But I am happy, wipe sweat off forehead happy type of thing, that Nick Chubb will not be available against us. I want to get this dub, and I know how my Georgia dog gets, man. And also, since it's not out yet, like I said earlier, I will give y'all the final injury report of who's out, who's questionable, all of that type of stuff for both teams in my Browns game preview that will be coming out. So be on the lookout for that. That's either tonight or tomorrow, more than likely tomorrow, just to let you know. And before we get up out of here, just to let you know, our week 5 captains have been announced, and the Commanders media team have definitely stepped it up. These videos have been elite this season. Not only have we stepped it up from players, coaching staff, front office, but the media team is stepping up big time as well. Right now, your team captains are Jaden Daniels, Dorrance Armstrong, and Jeremy Chin. I love to hear it. And it's kind of like the captains of the next week reflect off of what they did the previous week. Dorrance Armstrong had a monster game against the Cardinals. Jeremy Chin, I would say, finally had his first good game of the season against the Cardinals. And then Jaden Daniels is doing Jaden Daniel things. Again, just to remind you, like I've been updating y'all since the offseason, team captains will change on a weekly basis, potentially. So and Dan Quinn even said it himself. I told y'all this like a month ago or something like that. That Dan Quinn said he's doing this on purpose so that everybody has experience, at least everybody that deserves to get the chance to has the experience of being a captain, so that they all learn how to be leaders. But we're not just about to go through the entire 53-man roster and make everybody captains. You have to earn it, which takes me to my point that, I mean, we've been through a lot of the defense so far. Like a lot of the defense when it comes to these captains being handed out. And yet Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne have yet to be named captain once. There's even some guys that have been named captain more than once, and those guys haven't even gotten it once. So I am looking at them a little crazy. Now they had a better game. Both of those guys had better games against the Cardinals, but I'm still waiting for them to step up to the point that Dan Quinn can't even deny deny them anymore. Y'all are definitely captains going into the next game. I'm ready for that type of game from Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. I'm ready for the way that Dorrance Armstrong exploded onto the scene against the Cardinals. I'm waiting for that from Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. Please, I'm not trying to call them out crazy or nothing like that, but I'm just trying to make sure people realize that Jonathan Allen and Dorrance Armstrong haven't been named captains yet, while other guys have, even Dorrance Armstrong, who just got here. So Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, I want more from y'all guys. Good game against the Cardinals, but can we expect more, especially with the money that y'all are making, man? I feel like that's not too crazy to ask for. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Make sure you leave a like, still follow that like button before you get up out of here. And also let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Austin Ekeler getting back. Brian Robinson potentially hurt, but more than likely playing. Noah Brown being out. Who do you think will step up in his place? How do you feel about Ferrell being out? How do you feel about all of the Browns injuries? How do you feel about this team captain situation that we just most recently talked about? Let me know all of your thoughts on that. I'm going to try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. And I'm going to catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.